I hadn't won the championship for 9 years, and obviously you don't get a job at a big club unless the club's got problems. And I just think, without being critical, anyone who'd been there in the past, I just think the club had become a little bit sloppy, and I think it needed some quite radical changes, and we made those, and fortunately we got a bit of success immediately with it. And then I think people started to believe in what we were telling them, and it just went from strength to strength then.
Souness quickly brought in Dundee United's highly regarded coach Walter Smith as his assistant.
It was obviously a partnership that worked, but not just in a professional sense. We became mates as well. We didn't always agree, which I think is healthy, but it was a very productive time I think for him, for me, and for the football club. I think we all benefited from that partnership.
One of Souness's first signings, and certainly his most influential, was the England captain, Terry Butcher.
Well, I think it was a statement of intent. You know, we'd for years, it had been a case of the best Scottish players going the opposite way, and we reversed somewhat. I think the signing of Terry Butcher, who maybe at that time had captained his country, and he was instrumental in everything we achieved in that time. I mean, he was a main man in the dressing room. He was a main man on the pitch. He had a tremendous influence on the rest of the players. And a lot of the success we achieved at that time would be down to him and others, but mostly him, I think.
3 months into his first season, the new Rangers manager led his team out for the League Cup final against Celtic. It was to provide the perfect start to what was already being called the Souness Revolution.
And Cammy Fraser is there, Butcher's there, Durant is there and scores! Durant has scored for Rangers. Feels for a penalty kick there. It's a given. It's a penalty to Rangers. A vital moment in this game. I make it 5.5 minutes remaining of the Skull Cup final. Penalty to Rangers. 2-1.
I think there was a few eyebrows raised at me being given the job at 33, no experience. And it doesn't matter if you've played at the highest level for any amount of years. Management is a totally different ballgame. And that's why it's so important I had experienced people with me. To go on and win something so quickly, I think took a lot of the pressure off Walter and myself.
A 19-game unbeaten league run took Rangers to Aberdeen for the penultimate game of the season, requiring 1 point for their first title in 9 years. Souness's main memory?
Getting sent off. End the season as I started. I went for the bait. I found when I went back as a player, you know, I think there was a feeling directed towards me. Who does he think he is? You know, big shot coming here to show us how it's done. And I took the bait too often. You know, I got sent off. I got sent off once in my career in England, and was it 3 or 4 times in Scotland.
There's Cooper. There's Butcher. He scored. Butcher has scored for Rangers.
I can remember actually winning it and had the supporters spilling onto the pitch when we were doing a lap of honour. And I can remember at least half a dozen policemen on the way back to Glasgow when we were maybe going through a junction, a set of traffic lights, and just being waved through. And they were actually, you know, with their arms up cheering. This is Rangers supporters in Aberdeen, these policemen. So it was, you know, we knew it had been a special day. It was a special day we were involved in. I knew they were a big club. You know, I've been pillared for this, but I was a Rangers supporter as a boy. And I knew they were a big club. But I don't think until you actually work there you realise the passion that's involved at the club. You know, being from Edinburgh, maybe I wasn't fully aware of the passions in Glasgow at both Rangers and Celtic, but certainly within the first month I realised what the club itself meant to people, to the average supporter who turned up every Saturday to watch his team play. It was more than just a football club. But I quickly realised that.
The following season, only the League Cup was retained, but Rangers did make a long-awaited impact in the European Cup. There was a particularly memorable win over Dynamo Kiev at Ibrox when Souness cleverly reduced the width of the pitch to counteract the Russians' pace on the flanks. There were also more new signings, some of special significance.
And it's difficult, but if you were to say the 3 most important signings I made when I was at Rangers would be, in my opinion, Terry Butcher, Richard Gough, and maybe the certainly pound for pound value would be Ray Wilkins. I think we paid 250 to Gerard Houllier at PSG, and I think he pound for pound would be up there with the best. But in terms of influence in the early days, Terry Butcher, latterly Richard Gough, in a couple of years that Ray Wilkins was, they were great signings. And as a manager, you got nothing to do. You know, I'm up in the stand because I was banned from the touchline, but I'll be up in the stand half time when it wasn't going well. By the time I got to the dressing room, the job was done. They had pointed a finger at people. They had told people what they weren't doing, what they should have been doing. Had a shout at people, and arguments developed, and I come and sit and have a cup of tea and listen to them. They had done the job for me. And you're a lucky man if you've got that in your dressing room. I didn't have one leader. If you've got one leader, you've cracked it. I had 3, maybe 4 at times. John Brown came into that category. You know, if anyone wasn't pulling their weight, you know, Bomber wanted to fight with them. So I was very fortunate.
The influential Butcher suffered a broken leg in November 1987, a blow Souness is convinced cost Rangers the title. But important players arrived to strengthen the squad, including Ian Ferguson, together with John Brown, Gary Stevens and Kevin Drinkle, who was on the score sheet in an unforgettable Old Firm match in August 1988.
Ray Wilkins will take the free kick. Gough is in the box once again. So is Butcher. Back to Brown. Blocked by McCarthy. There's McCoist. Deadly finishing by Ali McCoist. It's launched in field by Stevens. There's Butcher. Back with Wilkins. Absolutely magnificent from Ray Wilkins. There's Durant retrieving it for Rangers. McCoist nods it on, an awkward one for Andrews. And the ball is in the net. It's a goal for Rangers. Walker's now facing McCarthy. Getting in a fine cross. Kevin Drinkle. White judging the fight well. There's Brown. Taken in trouble as Ali McCoist. Down he goes this time at Walters. Mark Walters makes it 5.
That victory inspired Rangers to collect the league championship for the 39th time and the second under Graeme Souness. The League Cup was won for the 3rd season in a row, and that was a first for the club. Even as they celebrated, the fans knew that there would be further big-name signings to come, but no one out with Ibrox could have anticipated the sensational events of July the 10th, 1989. Maurice Johnston was a Scottish internationalist, a recent Celtic player, and he was a Roman Catholic.
With David Murray, we had spoken about that we had to do it sooner or later, that change had to be made. For the club to go forward, it had to be made. And we talked about, you know, I used to go out for dinner with David 5 nights a week, and I bet a couple of nights a week that would be mentioned. And we both agreed that had to be done, but we said we'll have to pick the right moment, and it has to be the right player. And I can remember a picture appearing in the paper with Billy McNeil and Maurice Johnson. Maurice having a Celtic shirt hung in front of him, and he had come over from Nantes, and he was going to be signing for Celtic in the near future. And I thought privately, you know, if we'd been aware of that, we should have been in for him. So we played a home game against someone, I forget, and I remember after the game I came down the staircase and Bill McMurdo was leaning against a radiator by the front door. And I could throw away a line. I said, Bill, if you had told me, we would have had him here. He said, come here. He said, you serious? I said, yeah. He said, the deal's not done. I said, well, he said, give me 5 minutes. And I went back up the stairs, spoke to David. I said, look, would we do it? He said, would you do it? I said, I would do it because I think he's a good player. And then he said, we'll talk about it. So I went out for dinner that night. I phoned Bill back. I said, yeah, let's talk about it.